Wednesday Wonders, it's Ranger Erin, and we are wondering today about how do plants defend themselves. And we think about the way that animals defend themselves. We've got a few different options. We can run away, we can fight back, or we can hide. But plants can't move very much. So they're going to have to think of different ways that they can defend themselves out here. Because if you're an herbivore, an animal that eats plants, when you walk out to a forest or a field like this just looks like a big salad bar to you. And if you're a plant, that's not good news. So they're going to need to find ways to defend themselves. You probably already guessed that one way that plants can defend themselves is by growing big, sharp points on them. So a lot of our plants are going to have thorns. And this tree behind me, these honey locusts, they have some of our biggest thorns that we've got out here in our area. So these giant thorns can be as long as my arm. So this is meant for really big herbivores, bigger herbivores than we even have here anymore. These trees started growing these thorns thousands of years ago when we had woolly mammoths. So these trees are growing these giant thorns to keep big herbivores from knocking them over and eating all of their fruits. Now, even though we don't have these woolly mammoths and giant sloths anymore, they still have these giant thorns that tell us this story of how these trees needed to defend themselves from them. While thorns are a great defense against really big herbivores, they're not a great defense against tiny ones like our insects. So many of our plants are going to grow hairs. And this mullein is absolutely covered in these furry hairs, and they just kind of get in the way of that little insect trying to bite down on this very furry leaf. These cucumbers have sharp hairs all over them. So even as a larger herbivore, I wouldn't really want to touch it because those little hairs are kind of sharp and it wouldn't feel very good to bite down on them. These plants behind me have really special hairs all over them. This plant, which grows all over our eastern deciduous forest, is stinging nettle. So it's very common around here, and as the name implies, when you touch those hairs, it gives you a little sting. So I'm going to be very careful about not touching it. This stinging nettle all along that stem has those sharp little hairs, and yes, ouch, when you touch them, it will give you a sting or a little bit of a kind of a burn that lasts for about 20 minutes, but no longer. Our milkweed has a really special defense. So not only is it poisonous, and very few creatures can eat it because of that, it also makes this really thick, milky substance that's kind of like latex and is really sticky. And if you aren't careful about the way that you eat it, you're going to get your mouth glued shut. So when you find milkweed, you can just kind of tear a little corner of it, and you can see that that white stuff starts to pour out. So our little monarch caterpillar right here has to be very careful about the pattern that he eats in if he doesn't want his mouth to get glued shut. One last important way that plants know how to defend themselves is by making themselves poisonous. And that poison can be just enough to kind of make something taste really nasty and gross, or it can be enough to really send you to the hospital. So this plant behind me with these really beautiful, tasty looking berries on it, this is called pokeweed, and this is poisonous to us. So even though it looks really yummy to eat, it's not yummy for mammals. So this plant has figured out a way to keep itself from being eaten by the herbivores it doesn't want to eat, which are mammals, but it does want birds to come by and eat these big berries and then poop them out later, so they're not poisonous to birds. So poison can be kind of directed at who they want to eat it and who they don't want to eat it. When you go out on your hike looking for different types of ways that plants can defend themselves, you can definitely head into the forest, definitely head into the prairie. Those are great places. You'll see a lot of different types of defenses, but I'll also maybe suggest heading into a garden. So our garden areas, these things, they taste really good. We want them for different reasons, and the same is true for our herbivores. So maybe check out the garden and see what types of defenses they have going on in there. For an indoor activity, I'm going to ask you to make up a plant. I want you to think about why an animal would want to eat it, and then some way for that plant to defend itself. And then you can choose to either write a story about that plant and the different plant defenses that it has. Maybe you draw a picture and label all the different ways that it's going to defend itself. Or if you want to get a little bit crafty, you can use your craft supplies and try and construct your plant. Well, thanks for joining me. If you saw some really cool thing on your hike and you want to let me know about it, or if you want to let me know about your weird plant creation and how they defend themselves, let me know and I will catch you all next time.